Hi, I'm Kendra with Where's the Moon Astrology. I want to talk about Jupiter's transit through Scorpio. On October 10th, Jupiter moves out of the sign of Libra and into the sign of Scorpio. Now, when I talk about the different effects of Jupiter and Scorpio on the different signs, what I'm referring to is the ascendant sign. So if you're watching this and you're an Aries sun, and you think that this will apply to you, it might apply to you in a little bit, but it's mostly going to apply to Aries ascendant. I'll link you to Cafe Astrology in the description of this video. If you go there and you generate a chart for yourself, you'll be able to find out what your ascendant sign is, and from there you'll be able to decide what video is going to tell you the most about what to expect over the next year or so while Jupiter's in Scorpio. So this video is really for Aries ascendant, not for Aries sun unless your sun sign and your ascendant sign happen to be in the same sign. For Aries ascendant, Jupiter in Scorpio is going to be activating your 8th house. The 8th house is the house of sex, death, transformation, and Jupiter is a sign that expands whatever it touches. It's also the sign of optimism, abundance, good luck, goodwill. Jupiter can have a tendency to overdo it, but essentially Jupiter is a really positive and benefic influence. It'll bring blessings wherever it goes. So with Jupiter going into the 8th house, what you can expect is, well, a very simplistic way to interpret Jupiter in the 8th house is that you'll be having more sex. A lot of sex, it'll be fun sex, it'll be a really more positive relationship with sex. So if you're somebody who has a difficult time sexually for whatever reason, might be due to trauma, this can be a really positive transit for you to work through some of those issues. In fact, moving away from the sex bit, because that's a very shallow interpretation of Jupiter through Scorpio, Jupiter in Scorpio will actually give you the opportunity to look at all kinds of things that are kind of buried in your unconscious, things that you don't want to deal with. The 8th house can really refer to trauma. It's kind of where we keep our trauma. It's where we keep the darker parts of ourselves. So Jupiter through Scorpio in your 8th house can really give you the opportunity to work through some deep-seated issues and things that are buried really deeply inside. I've heard of people with Jupiter going through their 8th house really getting an opportunity to sometimes remember traumas, things that happened to them that have been repressed that they don't even remember until this transit, and that really gives them the opportunity to work through some of that stuff. Now that doesn't sound that fun, but it's ultimately for your highest good to be able to work through some of those issues. For this reason, it's a really good transit for shadow work. Now if you don't know what shadow work is, Teal Swan has some great videos on shadow work. She's like actually the master of shadow work, so I would recommend checking out some of her videos. She has one called What is Shadow Work that's really good for just learning about the basic premise of it. But basically it's about exposing some of the traumas and things that you've been through for the purpose of working through them, for the purpose of feeling them completely, so that they are no longer the shadow part of you and you are able to face them and move through life in a more constructive way so that the shadow doesn't come out to play at inopportune times. So Jupiter through Scorpio, Jupiter through your 8th house, this is going to be really positive for shadow work. It's going to be really positive for working through some of that stuff. And also, because Jupiter is a planet of optimism and goodwill, where some of this stuff may be too painful to look at other times, Jupiter can really lighten up the process, I think, of going through that shadow work, of unearthing those traumas. I think that Jupiter in your 8th house will really provide a real more lighthearted way of going through these growing pains. I think that Jupiter can really lighten that influence and help you look at those things in a way that's not so hurtful, so traumatic. It can just help you deal with it, make light of it, and just experience this in the most positive way possible. I think that Jupiter in your 8th house can also be a real catalyst for change, because the 8th house is also a house of transformation. It's a really powerful house. It's a natural house of Scorpio. So when you have Jupiter going through Scorpio, it can really expand your sense of power and your presence in the world, sort of. It can also expand your urge for transformation. So you might come out of this transit actually a completely different person than you were going into it, just from being able to work through some of those traumas. The 8th house is also about joint resources and debt. Money that you share with other people, money that you borrow from other people, things that you share with other people. Whereas the 2nd house is all about your personal resources. The 8th house is about the resources that you share. So, with Jupiter being a money planet, the planet of expansion and the planet of abundance, Jupiter going through your 8th house can indicate some sudden windfalls that come to you through others. So maybe an inheritance. It might be a good transit for playing the lottery. Not that that's very good financial advice, but Jupiter in your 8th house can be a transit where you have sudden windfalls of financial income that come to you through others. So this has been a basic synopsis of Jupiter through the 8th house for Aries ascendant. Please check out the link in the description of this video. I offer all kinds of chart readings. I offer transit readings that would give you deeper insight into this whole transit for you, what Jupiter is going to be aspecting while it's going through your 8th house, and other planetary influences. I offer birth chart readings, relationship readings. Just take a look. Have a great day.